Now, have you ever bought the wrong bike in the course of thinking it would be perfect for your needs, and after a very short while, it wasn't exactly what you thought it would be? Well, I was on the opposite end of this. When I bought this bike, I didn't know if it would be the right bike, but I took a wild chance because the ergonomics was so good for me, and it turned out to be the right bike for me. Now, being honest, I'm never quite sure why when you ride an MT09 it feels so much lighter than it really is. I don't know why. It feels, I always try to explain to people, it feels like an RD400, which sometimes I ride the RD and this back to back, and they feel very similar. Bigger bikes have a whole different feel, a heavier steering, a lot more work. You got to use your hips to get into the corner. This bike is like, I don't even know. I don't know how to explain it. I wish I did. 2 engineering degrees, and I don't know how they did that. That's an amazing thing. But anyway, beside the point, it is just a beautiful day out there, and Karen's got some cooking going on, and we are going out on the open road. You can join us in 4K. Now, I pre-flight the bike and clean it and check everything before I go out on a ride, but before I bought this bike, I did a lot of deep soul searching, and I leaned on a person that I really respect his opinion, Les McDonald, a fellow modeler who had an early version of this, and he seemed to like it. And I kept getting emails from him about how much he liked it, and I took that to heart rather than take a chance on a bike that I didn't have any background check on. And Les, you proved to be right, even more than I could have ever imagined. And a big thing that made the final part of the sale that was final, when I had narrowed it down to 2 bikes, I sat on this bike, and the riding position was something I've worked on other bikes for years. This one suited my needs, suited my ergonomics right from the day I bought it. Back in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, all I wanted was the fastest bike. I didn't care if you had to sit on a pincushion or have somebody beat you with a baseball bat while you were riding. I just wanted the fastest bike. I was racing an AMAR, drag racing, doing all kind of stuff. And all I cared about was how fast is this bike. And being honest, I bought a lot of bikes that I traded in very, very quickly for just that reason. They were not comfortable. And I didn't realize at the time how important it is that when you're on a motorcycle, that you be relatively comfortable. And over the years, I've had so many bikes with clip-ons, track bikes that I had to convert over to handlebars and whatever as I got older. Well, if you didn't get older, this wouldn't be a problem. If you could figure out a way to stay 18 years old, you wouldn't need things like that. But in my case, I got older, like it or not, and I started looking for things to make the bike not only more comfortable, but more fun to ride. And just more enjoyable, that when you went out and left the driveway, as soon as you went out of the driveway, you were having fun. And of course, for me, the biggest addition to my riding equipment, the Valentine radar detector. And of course, this bike with all the safety features and traction control and ABS and whatever, ride modes, it just, to me, it's like the cherry on the sundae. It's a hard thing to come to grips with when you think about it. Not any one bike is right for anybody, including the MT09. What works for one person isn't going to work for the other person. And if somebody is still involved in racing or drag racing or whatever, their choice is going to be different than if you're going on long, comfortable trips. There's always the right bike. Of course, for me, one of the best parts of every ride is just chilling out, looking at the scenery, there's several ponds in the area that I'm jealous of this. So nicely kept, nicely maintained. There's beautiful scenery almost everywhere in this area. And in my case, I'm lucky enough to have 2 track bikes that when I set up a street bike, I set it up so I'm comfortable with it. I set it up so the seat is comfortable. The handlebars are in a comfortable position. Nothing's awkward about it when you get on and off. And that makes the bike more fun to ride. And the discussion is always what one makes one person happy, doesn't do much for the other person. Another person looks at that and goes, that wouldn't work for me at all. And you always have people I know that they buy a 1,000cc full race bike and then ride around in rain mode all day long. So I don't know, but I know this bike, it's a magic trick for me. This bike works for me. And what works for me, and it's a small thing, getting 50 miles to the gallon. It works for me because around here gas gets high, it gets low, you never know what the gas is going to be. 50 miles to the gallon works for me. Now, I've had 3 different types of tires on this bike in just a little under 20,000 miles, 19.5 I think. But I'm going to be doing once these come off, I'm going to be doing a comparison and a pretty deep evaluation of which tires I like the best. And one of the reasons this is the right bike for me, because I like to ride back roads. I like to ride very twisty, sometimes slippery, sometimes salted. You can see how many leaves are already out in the street here today. And I find that to be the thing I like most. I don't like Route 80. I don't like riding on highways and traffic. And I absolutely hate red lights. And every time I'm out on a ride, a different topic seems to float through my head, and I start thinking about it, and I think, I'll mention some of that on a video, but buying the right bike, finding the right bike, and not buying the bike your friends like, buying the bike that you like, that's the key. Now, I've been riding motorcycles 65 years. I've learned a lot in those years. Most of it I learned the hard way. Maybe, in fact, all of it I learned the hard way.
but I know as a very, very important thing is just don't rush into any purchase of a motorcycle. And when you rush into buying a bike, you go to a showroom and you just see one that says, oh, this one has 700 horsepower or something. And when you don't think it through, yeah, but what are you really going to do with the motorcycle? Where are you going to ride? When are you going to ride? How often are you going to ride? And are you really into this to the level where you want to refinance your house? Or do you want to do it in the way some people do, is they try to buy a bike that's a little too small for them to learn how to ride, and then they have to sell it at a loss and buy something bigger? Do you want to have a bike that's too small, a bike that's too big? You're just going to try to buy it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people buy a super bike right off the bat and then really sorry that they did when it winds up in a tow truck or whatever. Anyway, I just tried to share my thoughts on this video, all the mistakes that I've made over the years, and there are many. And I've wound up at the end of it after all these years and all these motorcycles. I got to make a list of how many I've owned in my lifetime and how many I've ridden over the years. And I wound up with this bike. So I hope this video gave you some food for thought when you go buy a motorcycle, if you're buying another one or if you're buying your first one. Hey, and most of all, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. I appreciate everybody that supports the channel. Guys, I really do appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button if you did, and thank you so much for watching.